Good? Yeah. Okay. Magic of Empty Teachers, Class 4. So we were talking about the need for a teacher, right?
Yeah.
That's what we were talking about, the whole. And we did say that the causes for a teacher were to be a good student. So what we're going to talk about in more detail today is that actually, I'm just looking at my notes. When Lama taught this, he was saying that we did a little bit of the qualities of a student. We did. You know, like you couldn't be upside down, cracked, dirty pot, right? And there is all of those, and that the best way to create the causes for being a good teacher is to be a good student. So that's where we left off. Then Lamaji says the rest is just the details. You know, the 3 of this, the 4 of that, the lists. I think last class was a lot of lists, right? We're going to get a bit more today, but we're kind of moving on to the qualities of your perfect teacher. And today's reading is actually from Alexander Berzin. And the Berzin Archives. It's actually Alexander Berzin and Pabonka Rinpoche reading 8. So that is actually all 3 readings.
Thank you.
So that also includes one that we haven't gotten to quite yet. And, I didn't copy this yet. So I will scan and email this out. And it's from the Berzin Archives, which is a free online publication. But we're going to go through chapters 4 and 5. And I just printed it out, so it just looks like that. So I will copy those and scan them, and then everybody can have an email of it. Okay, so there's a couple of things. The first thing is that we're trying to figure out what it is we're looking for when we're looking for a Dharma teacher, our perfect teacher, right? And then the second level, because remember, we keep saying the only thing this course is really about is karma and emptiness. You don't actually order your teacher up in India or anything like that. You don't actually seek them out there, even though they will appear external to you at this point. But what you need to do is understand that they are empty, and that however they come, however good, bad, or otherwise they are, comes from who? Comes from you. Yeah. So you need to start cultivating. So first of all, you need to clarify what it is you're looking for, and then you need to start cultivating those qualities in you. Okay? So Pabonka Rinpoche says that while you're looking for a good teacher, don't forget that what you're really trying to do is cultivate those qualities in yourself. And there is a symbiotic relationship between those two, between what is going to appear to you outside and what is coming from the inside. Because where does it all come from? It comes from inside, right? So, that symbiotic relationship, being a good teacher, that was another cause. Another cause for getting teachers in your life was to teach others, right? So being a good teacher, or teaching to the best of your capacity, is a good way to plant the karma to have good, better teachers come into your life. Because those are, being a good teacher and seeing good teachers are very related also, okay? Because we cannot see anything that isn't already inside of us. Because everything is a projection, right? Remember, it's not because everything is a projection that nothing works. It's because it's a projection that everything works, right? So, other than cultivating the good qualities, another way to go at the karma of things is to purify the old karma that might be blocking you or might be proving to be an obstacle. we've experienced some obstacles manifesting to class. And in a way, as painful as it is to get bonked over the head or whatever, at least it's a tangible ripening and it's done, right? And you can kind of recognize, you can recognize it in the moment. And as long as you don't recreate the causes for that, you're done, right? So it's kind of interesting that I think it's ACI 6 when we do the Diamond Cutter course, which is totally about emptiness. No, it was even earlier than that. But, when we focus the lens of our mind onto something, and we're actually embarking on the virtue of creating that virtue, creating the causes of that, or the results of that virtue, very often we will be faced with our old bad karma. Like, that's the stuff that has to move out of the way in order for the virtue to deliver goodness to you, right? So in a way, that's another reason why it may appear that things go bad before they get better. Or, you're thinking of purifying anger, and all of a sudden all you can do is be furious. Mm-hmm. And it's because it's not that you're more conflicted, it's not that worse and more treacherous obstacles have come your way, it's that you're purifying so well that it ripens quickly. And that's a hard one. That's a hard one to wrap your head around sometimes, because nobody likes the unpleasant stuff. Mm-hmm. And although they say that if you are doing a good bout of purification, what might hit you as a migraine could have been death. It could have been a tragedy that just took you down at the knees. And not that a migraine isn't debilitating and might keep you in bed for a day, but it passes, right? So like that. So we should get really good at working the 4 powers of purification, which is something that is taught in the karma class. And actually there's several things that we could do to purify our obstacles to having a good teacher. We mentioned some of them I think we had a whole section in the last class or the class before where we talked about the benefits of being a good student, like how it is that you could create the teacher, and then the downfalls of not respecting your teacher, of thinking you're better than them, of like all those things. So we know what the things are to not do. So if we don't do them, that's kind of an antidote, right? And then also to do the things that we know, like respect, like confess, like study scripture. The big, big, big one is do what you're told. Remember we talked about the medicine and the teacher being like the doctor, and how they have prescribed, or they have diagnosed us accurately as having a terminal case of dukkha, of suffering. They've prescribed the medicine, but if we don't take it, it's not going to do us any good, right? So, and the more conscious we are about these, even the more conscious we are about the purification, like when it's happening, as it's hurting, to really say, okay, enough. I dedicate this purification to my teacher coming to me easily and effortlessly, or something like that. You have to put it into words that resonate for yourself. But the more conscious you are about the karma and what is cause and effect for you, the quicker it will happen, and the quicker the bad stuff will clear, and the quicker the good stuff will manifest. So, there's a quote from Pabonka Rinpoche's commentary. It's interesting. We've been doing kind of parallel Jetsun Kampa's Lamrim Chenmo and Pabonka Rinpoche's Liberation in the Palm of Your Hand. But right now there's a quote from Pabonka Rinpoche commentating on Jetsun Kampa's his principal teachings, which are basically the foundation of ACI 1, which is about the 3 principal paths. And it asks, what kind of a Lama should your perfect Lama be? And he says, this is a quote out of Pabonka Rinpoche's commentary on Jetsun Kampa's principal teachings, it takes a guide who knows every turn of the path just to get you somewhere where you can reach in just a single day. For a Lama who's supposed to lead you on to freedom and the state of knowing all things, you're going to need one who has all the requisite qualities. Be careful who you choose as your spiritual guide, because this is the person who you are going to be like, for better or worse. So what he's saying is that your mind is going to be shaped by the teachers you choose. And the better you are as a student, the more you will become like your teacher. And the best students are the ones who emulate their teacher to such an extent that, I mean, everyone has their own style. It's not about giving up your own qualities or anything like that, in a way. Like, you give up all the bad qualities, but as you emulate more and more good qualities, you will become like your teacher. So be very careful who it is that you choose, right? And do you remember what the sign of a really good teacher was? Like one of the sort of proofs that they are a good teacher is that they produce students who are even better than they are. Yeah. I'm not sure when the screen goes to sleep if it's still on.
Yeah.
Okay.
It looks like all good. I just don't. Yeah.
Good. Just checking.
It's a little better. Yeah.
So, I guess you could say that you're not really a good teacher until you create students who are better than you. That could be another way of putting it. And teachers are in the business of manufacturing enlightened beings. That's what this is. This is a factory to get enlightened. Yeah. You know, I don't know if you've heard of the story of Lord Odisha, Master Odisha, who is actually one of the great sages in our immediate lineage for having brought the Lam Rim to us. And he went to, I can't remember now where it was, but it was either Indonesia or somewhere like that, from India. Like, so he had to take a ocean trip, and it was quite treacherous. And when he gets to his destination, because he goes specifically to seek out this one teacher who he feels can give him the teachings that he needs. And he gets there, but he doesn't go immediately to the teacher. He checks him out. He asks around, he checks up on his students, like he does all his research and due diligence, and it takes 12 years. And finally, he goes to the teacher, and he begs him to be his teacher, and he says, I've observed you I've checked you out for 12 years. And the teacher turns to him and goes, you've checked me out for 12 years, now I'm going to check you out for 12 years before I agree to be your teacher. That's the famous story of Master Odisha. And, it's not that you can't meet your teacher in an instant and know, but all the texts are pretty adamant that you should be careful and take your time. So the reason we're going to switch to Alexander Berzin's reading today is he is a Westerner. He's a Western scholar who actually was an incredible disciple to his Lama. And he is also a very accomplished academic and very well written. So when he writes about the teacher, and he categorizes it, we're going to go through his 8 different categories in a minute. He says it in modern language in a way that we can relate to, and he really explains it very clearly. So it's a nice overview, and he's still alive today. So it's a very contemporary take on what this is. At least I think he's still alive today. Somebody should check that out. But it's within the last, it's within our lifetime. It's not like it's 500 years ago or 2,000 years ago that this commentary came. So we're going to go referencing chapters 4 and 5 of Berzin today. Although I have to say, I at one point downloaded his whole ebook, and it's wonderful. The whole thing is definitely worth reading. But chapter 4 is titled The Different Types of Teachers and Different Types of Seekers. And he breaks the teachers down to 8 different types within Buddhism. So he is specifically talking about Buddhism. They're not mutually exclusive. There is some overlap. And it's not that the one person can't be several of these categories, but it's a nice little laundry list. So I'm just going to run through it. The first one is Buddhism professors. So we're talking at the college or university level. And, Lama Marut was a professor of comparative religions for many, many years. And so, the famous professor in our lineage is Dr. Robert Thurman. I don't know if you've ever read any of his, or Uma's dad, right? He's both a professor and a lama to some people. To some people he's just a professor, to others he's just a lama, but to some he's both. And that's rare. A Buddhist professor usually is not a practitioner, whereas Dr. Thurman definitely is a practitioner, and he was a monk at one point, right? So he is very unique. But a Buddhism professor, according to Berzin's dissection of this, is a university or college instructor, professor, who is giving you the facts of Buddhism. No commentary, just it's this and it's that, and it's the Four Noble Truths and it's the this, that, whatever, with no embellishment, just the facts based on usually authoritative scriptures, ancient documents, perhaps they've translated things and it's been their doctoral thesis or something like that, right? And it's very, very useful to have someone who knows the facts that thoroughly and academically. And at a certain level, at the professor level, they encourage that it be very objective, which means it does have to be arm's length, right? It has to be very clinical and very much the observer of, as opposed to the practitioner within. So that's the Buddhist professor. The second one, the Dharma instructor, has some level of scriptural knowledge and some knowledge of religion, but most importantly understands Buddhism from an experiential point of view. And so they will teach not only the facts, but they will teach in a way that they'll say, this is what it can do for you. And they'll do it from a place of having tried or trying to put the teachings into practice. And by the way, anyone who teaches an ACI class is a Dharma instructor from this definition, from this point of view. Because we do teach Dharma from a very dharmic point of view and not just a litany of facts, right? Third is the meditation or ritual teacher. And it's interesting that Berzin lumps those things together, because I actually think they're two separate things, because ritual teachers would be able to teach you the proper ritual for, we're not very deep in ritual in this lineage. We have very important but simple, like the offering bowls or the 4 forces of purification. The bodhisattva vows, according to the specific style that we do it, is very minimal, actually, because I have been to a formal Tibetan version of it, and it's quite different. So we're not so good here. I will be the first to admit that all of us Dharma teachers here are not so good at being ritual teachers, but I can tell you that the ritual that we do teach is authentic, and it's not, we don't have quantity, but you do definitely get quality. But in this, and we do teach a lot of meditation here. So in this instance, though, Berzin lumps those two together, okay? And it's teachers with experience and competence in training students in meditation or ritual or both, is what he says, okay? 4 is spiritual mentors. So 4 out of 8 is where we get to the tipping point between any old teacher and your spiritual guru or lama. And this is what he calls spiritual mentors. And these are teachers who not only teach, but they inspire their students through embodying the teaching. So like the Dharma teacher is teaching from a place of experience, but they embody their teaching so much that it's that very personality, it shapes their personality. And it's because their personalities are so shaped by their practice, and they're so teaching from an experiential standpoint, that you're very drawn to that. And that would be a spiritual mentor. So this is where it starts shifting from just, and you know, there are ACI teachers who are this for some students and who aren't for others. So remember, it's not coming from the teacher, right?
Right.
5, refuge or vow preceptor. So this is someone who can give you refuge vows or pratimoksha vows or monk's vows. Now, just because you can give refuge vows does not necessarily, you'd have to be a monk or a monastic to be able to give monk's vows, right? But in our lineage, many of us are empowered to give bodhisattva vows, to give, I'm going to move on a little bit further, a couple more down, are tantric initiations. And in our lineage, there is the training there to do that. You have to have the proper training, but it's within the context of the lineage. So at this level, the instructor or the teacher who is, this is number 5, refuge or vow preceptor, is someone who can give you refuge, lifetime layperson's vows, or even monks or nuns' vows. Then there's the Mahayana masters, and this is interesting because Berzin separates refuge and pratimoksha vows from bodhisattva vows. He puts bodhisattva vows into its own category, and this is the category because bodhisattva is a Mahayana precept. A Hinayana precept does not include bodhisattva. So Hinayana is the Vinaya and the pratimoksha, and it's mostly the monastic level. Not to say that there aren't bodhisattva monks, but then those are Mahayana monks. And it's interesting, there are many, many monks in this world who are not Mahayana. They're Hinayana monks. Like the Theravadan tradition is all Hinayana. They're amazing, and it's just a different level of understanding of emptiness, actually, is what it boils down to. But if you could be a fully committed, realized Hinayana monk, you'd be way ahead of the game, you know, or practitioner. So, but they do differentiate it, and they do often refer to Hinayana as lower vehicle and Mahayana as greater vehicle. Not because one is better than the other, but because the greater vehicle actually has a greater perspective. The Hinayana perspective is focused on the individual. And as I say, most Hinayana, like Thich Nhat Hanh is an amazing Theravadan realized being. He certainly is not just thinking of himself, okay? But the Hinayana perspective is to really get yourself out first so that you can help others, but the motivation is not so that you can help others, get yourself out first. The immediate byproduct of that is that you would help others, whereas the Mahayana is that right from the get-go, your motivation is altruistic. It is because you want to help others that you have to get yourself out. Not you have to get yourself out, therefore you can help others. Yep. So this whole other separate category that Berzin creates is for the Mahayana teachers and vow givers, and that means the bodhisattva vows. Then he has a separate section for tantric masters, and these are people who can give empowerments on any of the 4 classes of tantra or the 2 highest classes of tantra. And I'm not going to go into the detail of what that means. Suffice it to say you can slice and dice tantra or the secret teachings into 4 classes or 2 of the highest classes. And regardless, a tantric master can give either or sets of vows. And then number 8 is the last one, and this is the Root Llama, the Root Guru. And this is what we're talking about in the source of all my good. My kind Lama, my Lord. We're talking about finding your, and this is what we're talking about when I say finding your perfect teacher. Because, you know, at the end of the day, if our karma is good enough, everybody will be our teachers. And until our karma is good enough, we try and practice that, but we don't really see it. it's hard enough to see the one person you have chosen as your teacher, never mind, right? If you have chosen them. So, and if you haven't, this is where it is really worth taking seriously and taking your time to do it. This is the root guru, is the Lama that you're basically in love with. They bring tears to your eyes when you think of them or speak of them, and they are the strongest source of inspiration that can sustain you throughout your journey. Doesn't mean that they're always going to be nice to you. Doesn't mean that they're ever even going to respond to you. Like if what you need is to learn patience or perseverance or thinking on your own, then how else are they going to teach you but not give you attention, right? So, but that also doesn't mean they totally ignore you. Like in fact, out of great love, they've just been waiting for you to wake up to the fact that they're your teachers, from your side, right? Because that's where they come from. So it's, but this is the spiritual, the highest level of spiritual mentor, and specifically they inspire students to turn to the Buddhist path. That's what a Buddhist Lama would be. Okay? So there is a difference between a Root Llama and anyone else who's teaching you Dharma. Doesn't mean you can't have a whole bunch of Dharma teachers, but your Lama, your Root Llama, is a very, very special category unto itself. Okay? So that's where Berzin's explanation is actually quite useful, because he goes into quite a bit of detail on identifying that. Okay, so now moving on to day 8 of Pabonka Rinpoche. So now you can read all of 7, and after today's class you can read 8. And as I said, Jetsun Kappa does the Lamrim Chenmo, Pabonka Rinpoche does liberation in the palm of your hand. They actually are talking about the same thing in slightly different ways. So it's kind of interesting to toggle back and forth. And we covered some of the qualities of the teacher through Jetsun Kappa's lens last time. And Pabonka Rinpoche, or the student rather, the Pabonka Rinpoche also covers the student, but his treatment of the qualities of a teacher is more extensive. So we're going to refer to him for the qualities of a teacher. Okay? According to Pabonka Rinpoche, when do you think someone should investigate a prospective teacher to ensure that they have the necessary attributes? It's kind of a giveaway. Pabonka Rinpoche says one should make such an investigation before undertaking to serve that teacher. Because, you wouldn't wait until 4 or 5 years into your relationship, right, to investigate them. Because then you've just wasted your time if they're not going to be the one, right? So, you kind of want to know what qualities and attributes you're looking for. And here's where we do get into laundry lists. We're going to have a list of 10, and then a list of 5, and then a list of 3, okay? So the qualities of a teacher, and remember, these do not self-existently appear out there from their own side, right? So if your teacher doesn't have them, doesn't mean they doesn't have them, right? Means that your karma isn't good enough yet to see it in them. So here's the top 10, and this is actually a very common laundry list within the ACI curriculum. And you'll hear this in many, many, many ACI courses, backwards and forwards. The first one is that your teacher should be ethical. The term in Tibetan, I love it, is called dulwa. Dulwa means to tame. And actually, dulwa is also used in the description of the 9 stages of meditation, the elephant and the monkey mind, in terms of taming the mind, because dulwa is the Tibetan word used in the specific context of training a horse, of taming a horse, right? So that's what we're doing with our mind. We're taming or subduing our mind, our hearts, which means moral discipline. Okay, so that's ethics. So how do you know if your prospective teacher has this? Well, are they practicing morality well? That would be a good place to start. They should be living an ethically pure life. Second is they should be calm. Someone had, wasn't it the British, be calm and carry on or something like that? There's this, anyways, calm in this. So it was Dulwa, Shiwa is calm. Shiwa also means peace. So this means that your teacher should be a good meditator. And interestingly enough, there is some physical qualities you can look for. I'm off-roading here. But, if they're very jittery, you know how some people sit and they can't stop but bang their knee and they don't even know they're doing it? That is not a calm person, okay? Or if they seem really quick to be hyper and anxious all the time and like nervous Nellies, right? Not the sign of a calm mind. Not to say that they might not behave that way to see what you're going to do, but if it's a consistent, lingering, habitual, apparent personality trait, maybe you might think that they might not quite have this quality to the extent that you need. Again, though, where does it come from, right? But, often people within whose company you feel very calm. I notice it around my teachers who have come out of 3-year retreat, or anyone, because I've actually been around a lot of people who have come out of 3-year retreat, notwithstanding Geshe Michael, and there is just this sense of everything's all right. Not everything's going to be all right, everything's all right when you're in that type of stillness, right? And so it is tangible. It is tangible. It could even be the way their voice sounds to you, or their presence sounds to you. It's calming. That's a good way. Okay, so back on the road. Third one is quiet, subdued, yeshe, wisdom, which in specifically is in Tibetan is near Shiva. So it's Dulwa Shiva, near Shiva. And near Shiva means that they have a very good intellectual comprehension of emptiness. Wisdom, in other words. Number 4 is a good one. They should have spiritual qualities superior to yours. They should be a little bit ahead of you along that spiritual, walkway. Because if they're not, if you think they've got less spiritual qualities than you, why the heck are you wanting them as your teacher anyways, right? 5, they should be energetic. And this doesn't necessarily mean jumping up and down and off the walls, because I just said they also have to be calm and quiet, right? It means joyful effort, to not be overly impatient, to be very joyful in working hard for their students. 6, they should be learned in scripture. They should know what it is that you want to learn. And the other quality of this is that they understand the capacity of the students. Because when the class, today's a quiet class, but if in classes you can get like a lot of people, and people have different capacities for attention, they may even have had like one student next to you might have 10 ACI courses under their belt, and then the other student might have just walked in off the street because they saw the flyer for the class, right? So there's different levels of, not to say that the person walking off the street doesn't have deep seeds that, would actually put them at the same level or higher than the person who has 10 ACI courses under their belt, but you know what I mean. Like there's different levels even within one class, and or people who have come into this class mostly from the Wednesday nights, which means they would have a stronger grounding in practical meditation as opposed to philosophy, wisdom, right? And they're both wisdom, they're just coming at it in different ways. So from the teacher's side, they have to be able to key in pretty quickly on those differences. And now, from the person observing, the teacher might not be saying anything different. It's not like they deliver one talk and then they turn around and okay, now I'm going to talk to you. Like, it's not like that. But within what they're saying and how they're saying it, they'll know how to trigger certain things in certain students, okay? And so that's another element of being learned. 7, they should have realized suchness. Now, according to Geshe Michael, this means they should have had their direct perception of emptiness. Pabonka Rinpoche is a bit more lenient. He does say that they should have gained an understanding of the correct view through wisdom born of listening. So this means an even more heightened intellectual understanding of emptiness than point 3 was. But Pabonka Rinpoche doesn't say that you necessarily have had to have a direct perception of emptiness. Geshe Michael does. Number 8, they should be endowed with eloquence. They should be good at teaching. Upaya, skillful means, okay? Number 9, they should have a compassionate nature. They should love their students. And number 10, they should never get tired of teaching. And Pabonka Rinpoche explains this beautifully. He says they should ignore weariness. That's how he describes it. So, if you can't find all 10, you should look for 5. And here's the 5. It actually sounds like 3 things. A mind that has been disciplined through the 3 trainings, a compassionate nature, and a realization of suchness. But it's actually 5 because the first one has 3 things. Right? So the first one is a mind that has been disciplined through and these are the 3 extraordinary trainings actually. The training of morality, the training of meditative concentration, and the training of wisdom, which are basically the first 3 of the list of 10, right? These are all lumped together into one in this one, which has 3 parts. And then they should be compassionate and have realized suchness. So that's the 5. And then as a minimum, Geshe says, if you can't find that, find these 3. They should have more virtues than faults. According to who do you think? According to you, yeah. They should appear to give more importance to future lives than the present. And what that means is that it's not that they're ignoring the present, but the present is like dried cement, right? And so they're teaching you to have a bigger picture of yourself. They're teaching you to aim for enlightenment, not what you're going to have for breakfast tomorrow, right? So, yeah, they should appear to give more importance to future lives than present, and they should be more concerned about others than they are themselves. So, if you're not even seeing that in a teacher, you got to go back and work on your own seeds. So, next we're given a quote by Jitsun Kappa, because we just went through all the laundry lists by Pabonka Rinpoche. And this is from a tantra requested by Subahu on the qualities of a teacher in these degenerate times. And so here's what Jitsun Kappa says. He refers to the guru as the assistant. He says, these assistants should have intelligence, a good appearance, great purity, be of reputable lineage, and incline towards the teachings. They should have great confidence, perseverance, and discipline the senses. They should speak pleasantly, be generous and compassionate, forbear hunger, thirst, and the afflictions. They should be focused, adept, grateful, and have faith in the 3 jewels. So his laundry list is, it's like that's just one stanza, right? It's like Winston Churchill putting one sentence in, like it took him a whole page to write one sentence or whatever, or he's done that, where one paragraph. It's like that, where he's put it all into one, right? So he's covered intelligence, appearance, purity, reputable lineage, incline towards the teachings, confidence, perseverance, discipline the senses, speak pleasantly, be generous, compassionate, forbear hunger, thirst in the afflictions, be focused, adept, grateful, faith. So he's got at least 16, and if you break it down to the 3 and the, you know what I mean, you're probably at 20, right? So make sure they have those 3 at least, you know, more virtues than you, more importance in the future lives, and are more concerned about others than themselves. Now, Jetsun-Kappa does say that finding someone with all those good qualities that he just rattled off is very rare in this age of strife. Now, Jetsun-Kappa lived in the 1400s, right? 1500s, and he was already calling it the age of strife, the Kali Yuga. We're still in it, you know? And he says that mantra practitioner, those on the Vajrayana path, so he's talking about tantric students, because in Tantra, it's crucial that you have a tantric lama. You can't get anywhere without one. That they should rely on an assistant who has 1/2, 1/4, or 1/8 of these qualities. So, and Lama Guru says, you got to start somewhere. Your teacher, actually my teacher says, you're not going to be perfect until I am. So your teacher is not going to be perfect until you are. So you start where you can, to the best of your due diligence, to the best of your understanding, because there is a love there, because there is an attraction there, because you really believe they can take you where you need to go. You start there. And if your guru looks imperfect some of the time, you work on your own karma. And you work your way up to upgrade your guru. And, that upgrade often will take place in the same person. Maybe that will shift. Maybe they will send you off to another teacher, But however that manifests, you have to start somewhere. And then work on your own causes. And this is the same about all the other people in your life too. But, they say practice with the one, and then it'll have ripple effects. So once you have decided, okay, you are my Root Llama, then you do have to see them in a certain way. It's very, very crucial that you have to see your teacher, or else they won't be able to function for you in the way that they're supposed to. And basically, how you're supposed to view the teacher, I think we talked about it last time, is you're supposed to view them as the Buddha. Not like the Buddha, but as the Buddha, right? And this is actually a really, really difficult practice. So here's Pabonka Rinpoche's authoritative reasons for why we need to cultivate this. Not need to cultivate trying to see the Buddha, the teacher, as someone who's Buddha-like, but who is the Buddha. And so he starts with scriptural authority, so not stuff he made up, but scriptural authority on why your teacher is the Buddha. So the first quote is from Vajradhara. Have you heard that? Vajradhara? Vajradhara is Lord Buddha's tantric emanation. Like when Lord Buddha is teaching Tantra, he's not the Buddha, he's Vajradhara.
Okay.
And he's blue. But anyways, so like Krishna, it's interesting. I wonder if anyone's done a paper on comparing. Anyways, I'm totally off-roading just because he is blue. But there's other deities who are blue too. But anyways, Buddha in his tantric aspect is named Vajradhara. Vajradhara affirmed that our Guru is a Buddha when he proclaimed in scripture that he would return to us in our teacher's form. Vajradhara said, "I'm coming back. Don't worry. I'll come back for you and I will appear as your teacher." So that's Pabonka Rinpoche's first authoritative source that your teacher is the Buddha, because he's quoting the Buddha directly when he taught in his tantric form. Okay? So the first scriptural authority is from Vajradhara. The second is that there's scriptural, there's a quote that says that the Guru is the agent for all Buddha's activities. Your teacher is basically one of the arms of the Buddha. And all the Buddhas are acting through your teacher. They say that the only thing a Buddha can truly do for you is to teach you. They can't change your karma for you. They can teach you how you can change your karma. they can't physically shield you. Like if there are machine guns pointed at you, they can't stand between you and the machine guns and protect you from getting shot. What they can do is teach you, and they do that, and what they teach you can save your life. So we have to ask, well, who's teaching us, right? If that's how the Buddha appears. Third one is that Buddhas are acting on behalf of all sentient beings, and they are doing so through your teachers. And then the fourth one, is Pabonka Rinpoche says, even if you don't buy the first three, which are authoritative, the fourth one is that our perceptions are unreliable. So it's taking the question, why is your teacher the Buddha, from a negative standpoint, saying that if you don't see your teacher as the Buddha, it's not because they're not the Buddha. It's because your perception is so unreliable that you can't even see a Buddha when it's sitting right in front of you. So you have to go through understanding the nature of your perception, where your perception is coming from. Karma and emptiness, right? Want a better projection? Got to plant better seeds, right? And understanding, really, 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 really getting that the way our world appears to us is forced on us by our karma. It's not forced on us by anyone else. Who planted that karma anyways, right? It's not that your teacher isn't the Buddha. It's because our karma forces us to see them incorrectly if we're not seeing them that way. I actually like that one. That one's, to me, is even more, I don't know, somehow applicable than some blue guy saying something 5,000 years ago. You know, it's like, no offense to the deities who are here now, who, you know, because no time and space, right? But you know what I mean? It's like, because the thing is, it's not practical for him to be here in a blue form. Like, we would freak out, right? It's just, but this last one, where the fact that I can't see that right in this instant is not because that being isn't here. It's because I don't have the seeds to see it, right? Yeah. Okay. And then Pabonka Rinpoche gives 4 ways for generating respect in the spiritual teacher. Remember, that's one of the important things that we want to cultivate, by recalling the teacher's kindness. So this is kind of sweet, you know, it's like, yes, your teacher is the Buddha. Well, my seeds are so icky that I can't see that. So, but maybe I can think about their kindnesses, and because that's kind of easier, you know, how good they've been for me. So consider that the Guru is more kind than the Buddhas. And the reason is your teacher is actively trying to get you enlightened. You can't see the other dudes, right? So how effective can they be, right? So that's the kindness your Guru has. They may not appear perfect to you, but they are the ones through which the wisdom can flow, right? The second one is think about the amazing thing that these teachers do. You know, they are teaching you a way to annihilate your suffering. They're teaching you the thing that could stop your suffering forever. That's actually a really important one to hold on to when you really think that your teacher's actually a big fat schmuck. Because, you know, you may not want to admit it to them because you know that's bad karma, but in your you know, the ire may still be bubbling up, or the impatience or the hurt or whatever. You gotta remember that whatever it is that they've taught you is so precious. And you swallow that anger down, or you don't respond. Say they're wrathfully yelling at you because that's the thing you need. You don't retort back, right? The way you might if you didn't truly understand the kindness that was being bestowed upon you. Third, think about their kindness is as blessing your mind. What that means is, like, think about how everything they've taught you has been a blessing for your mind. And this is why it's good to keep a 6-time book. It's really good to track where your mind is, because when you look back, you probably have an intuitive sense that your life is better, but if you've actually been keeping track, you can see night and day, right? And so they say when times get tough, think about what your mind was like before you had a teacher. And remember where you were. Remember where you were when life was just suffering and there was no way out, right? So even if times are tough because you're being thrown a bunch of lessons or obstacles or whatever, think about how it was before, and then you will be grateful for how far you've come and how much further you can go, right? And then the fourth one is reflect on their kindness in providing material objects for students. And that's not even just the handouts. It's about, our teachers, Geshe Michael devoted, he was a young adult when he went to India to study, right? And he has dedicated his entire life to teaching us all of this, to not keep the Geshe subjects in some rarefied, box that no one had access to all the teachers that he has created, and all of us who are teaching, thanks to all of that, right? It's just, all these free Dharma teachings, all of the, even Burson, that's a free ebook online, right? The wealth of, and even, never mind Buddhism, whatever you want to learn, the wealth of resources, at least those of us sitting in this room have at our disposal through the flick of a finger on a smartphone. It's remarkable, actually. And when you think about the kindness of these people who have dedicated their entire lives to teaching us this, it's huge sacrifices materially, professionally. You don't become a Dharma teacher to strike it rich and be the next rock star, right? There are rock star teachers, but that's not why they're in the business. It's because their karma is such that they can't help but, right? But it's unfathomable, the amount of time. I'm just thinking about all the amazing beings who just came out of 3-year retreat. That's a major dedication of time, right? Of just devoting themselves to purifying their minds so that they could be in a better world, so that they could create a better world. It's remarkable to me. So those are the types of things. You reflect on those types of kindnesses, right? Okay. I'm powering through this class, Zoe.
Are you?
I am. Well, actually, I left out a whole page of questions and answers because there weren't a lot of... Okay. Actually, you know what? I am going to review these were questions that came up in this Diamond Mountain class, okay. But they're good because it is about the Root Llama. There was a question that came up saying, do you have to ask them formally? If you've chosen that someone is your Root Llama, do you have to ask them formally, or can they just be that in your mind, in your heart? So they can just be that in your heart, but it is important to ask. There is something about that ritual that it's, it's kind of like taking vows. You don't take vows over the internet. You don't take them by Skype. You're in the presence of, because there is an exchange of energy. There is a commitment made in the eyes of another. And so nothing actually says you have to, but in this lineage, it's highly, highly recommended and suggested that if you're going to go this route, you should ask. Then the question was, and the thing is, of course, when you're a newbie, you're going to be unsure. if you were that sure, you wouldn't need a teacher, you know what I mean? So they said, well, can I have a temporary Root Llama and then switch to someone else when I decide? And the answer is you actually can't have a temporary Lama. And if that's what you thought they were, they're actually not a temporary Lama. They are one of those other categories, a spiritual teacher for you. And not that you shouldn't serve all your teachers with respect, but you should reserve that specific role of root guru for the one being or the 5 beings. Like my teachers had 5 root lamas actually. Yeah, and do you remember there was a class 1 or 2 classes ago where the question was, should I have 1 or many?
Right.
And one point said you should have many, and one point said you should have few, and few was 5 or less, right? Whereas in our lineage, 5 seems to be many. But
Right.
anyways, I have 2
You have 2?
tantric lamas, and I have 1 root lama. And everybody has different levels of, and it's interesting because when I asked my root lama to be my root lama, I asked my tantric lamas if that was okay, and they actually brought me up to my root lama. So but you know, that was my case. Like everyone's different, right? And you know, other people have 1 lama. Like Lama Marut students have him, right? And so in his case, he has 5 tantric lamas but 1 root lama. Like Geshe Michael is his root lama, and then the other, Geshe Michael is also his tantric lama, but so are those other 4 in that picture. So, see, it can be different for different people.
Right.
And interestingly enough, this is a tidbit for anyone who's paying attention to this class, but the 5 original tantric lamas, the students of those lamas were assigned the 5 just before their initiation. So not everybody stayed, because you have to, if you're going to make that leap, you've got to be very clear on everything that we talked about in this class. But in that case, their root lama was assigning 4 other lamas to be their tantric lamas with him. And so you had to be pretty damn clear on your karma and emptiness and your motivation for being there, because once you made that commitment, which many did, including my teachers, they now have 5 holy beings that they have to see as the Buddha and serve them in that way, right? So, but they're not temporary lamas in stand-in for each other's. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so that was a very unique but beautiful
Yeah.
situation.
And you can see people as being holy beings without them being teachers
Yeah.
too, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. The other reason you shouldn't have a temporary lama and then decide on someone else is that you can't actually back out of a lama-student relationship without considerably damaging your karma. It's actually more serious to divorce your lama than it is to divorce your husband or your wife. So then the question came up, well, what about your spiritual partner? Because there is something in the spiritual partnership teachings that says your partner is your root lama. And Lama Root clarified that you should actually be just as careful with your partner as you are with those 8 categories of teachers. And maybe they are. I mean, the highest view of your partner would be to see them as your root lama. But maybe your seeds aren't good enough to see them that way yet. You shouldn't assign that role to them.
Right.
And but it doesn't mean that they're not going to upgrade to that at some point. So that's different than having a temporary root lama, right? Yeah. You have to create the karma, and it's a heavy-duty, expensive karma to have a root lama too. So it's one thing to get a Root Llama, it's another thing to keep them in your life, actually. It really is. So, and the other question was, is a guru relationship for a lifetime once you establish it? And Lamaji would be quick to say it's more than a lifetime, and they've always been there. You just haven't known that, or you just haven't woken up in this lifetime, that they've always been there, and that they will take you all the way. It's because they are the Buddha, right? So, yeah. So those were the questions that came up in the Diamond Mountain class, and I thought it was useful to, I don't normally review other classes' questions because it was specific to that class, but these were specific to the Guru, and they are questions that come up. So
I had some of those questions.
yeah. So I have a song.
Oh, good.
And I have a speaker, which I think I successfully paired with my thingy here. So it's interesting that, I wonder if Sean's watching on Ustream. Sean, if you are, this one's for you. This one is from the Christian religion, actually. I say that's for Sean, not because he's Christian, because he's always, whenever he's had a question, it has been around the definition of, well, because, he's been brought up in Canada, so it's logical to have questions in the vocabulary of Christianity, either understanding it or being confused by it or trying to navigate the way through, right? So, anyways, this is actually one of the songs from my choir, although it's a professional recording by an amazing worship team called Hillsong. But, and I have the words for you.
Okay.
This is called Oceans, and it's so stunning. Oh, you know what? If you were at Lama Marut's Unity, we actually did this one.
I might not have heard that because I was up front.
Oh, okay. So here's the song.
Savior. Spirit, lead me where my trust is without borders. Let me walk upon the waters wherever you would call me. Take me deeper than my feet could ever wander, and my faith will be made stronger in the presence of my Savior. Spirit, lead me where my trust is without borders. Let me walk upon the waters wherever you would call me. Take me deeper than my feet could ever wander, and my faith will be made stronger in the presence of my Savior. Spirit, lead me where my trust is without borders. Let me walk upon the waters wherever you would call me. Take me deeper than my feet could ever wander, and my faith will be made stronger in the presence of my Savior. Spirit, lead me where my trust is without borders. Let me walk upon the waters wherever you would call me. Take me deeper than my feet could ever wander, and my faith will be made stronger in the presence of my Savior. Spirit, lead me where my trust is without borders. Let me walk upon the waters wherever you would call me. Take me deeper than my feet could ever wander, and my faith will be made stronger in the presence of my Savior. My soul will rest in your embrace. I am yours, and you are
It's actually a worship team called Hillsong. So she's one of the vocalists in it. I think, well, there's a few Hillsong groups, but I think this one's out of South Africa, I think. I think there's one in the UK too, but they have the most incredible worship songs. And of course, they're specifically singing to their great teacher, Jesus or God, but the essence and they've got it straight, right? They got it straight. Like, they've got all of these, they know why they're asking, they know who they're asking for, and so it's pretty amazing, I find. Yeah. It's one of my favorites. Yeah, it's called Oceans Where Feet May Fail. Okay, so just a little bit more to do. The list of the good qualities of a teacher, that big long list that I gave out, we're going to go through just a handful. 1, 2, 3, 4 more. So 11 is a good teacher serves and never exploits their students. This is really important because you know what, quite frankly, by the way, thank you very much for the amazing offerings. Everyone is always so generous, but the teacher doesn't need anything. You know what I mean? It's like, and it's not for, like, we make offerings because we know why we're making offerings, but that's not why a teacher should be in it. And they shouldn't be like disdainful of your offerings or looking at you sideways if you didn't give them $1 million or whatever, you know what I mean? It's like, that's not, in fact, it's totally wrong motivation if you're in it for fame or gain. So, a good teacher serves and never exploits their students. 12, a good teacher knows that the role of a teacher, this is really important. This is really important for a student to be clear on too, but both ways. A good teacher knows that the role of a teacher is different from the role of a parent, either a father or a mother, a lover, a therapist, a boss, or best friend, and does not confuse these roles. And it's actually a cultural misunderstanding in the West to think that that is the definition of a guru. Not that you don't want to be close to them, or not that you don't love them from the deepest parts of your soul, but it's a love that's beyond sexual attraction, or not that there might not be that, but the fact is that this is not that relationship, and it's a love that surpasses any type of worldly definition we might have. So the only role of the guru is to help you with your spiritual development. Only reason. Number 13, as a teacher, do not play favorites. Kind of common sense. Number 14, a good teacher knows that they cannot be the right teacher for everyone. And, Lama Root actually gave a really interesting example. He's so beloved and has such amazing students all over the world, but he said that there was one class that he was teaching, a Dharma class. He was teaching a course on emptiness. Now, there's many courses on emptiness, so I don't know if it was 6 or if it was 15 or if it was pick one, right? But he was teaching something on emptiness, and this one student walked out on him 3 separate times, and after the 3rd time, he actually took them aside and said, "I'm sorry, but you're not invited back." And they were really upset, and they were, had a difficult time with that, but his reasons was not because they walked out. He doesn't care. It's not for him. It's not that the student was making him any less of a teacher, but it was horrible for the student to be planting seeds of walking out on a teacher, walking out on understanding emptiness, really bad. And so out of love for the student, he sent that student to someone else saying, "You can't learn this from me. You obviously cannot hear it from me. So I would be just doing you a disservice if I allowed you back in my class." And that's a hard one because, teachers are people too at a certain level, and everybody wants to be liked, right? But that's not why you're in the business of teaching. So if you do end up teaching someone or attempting to teach someone who are actively doing things that are harming themselves by turning their back on you and what you're teaching, then you do have to cut them off. For them, not for you. And furthermore, you have to try and find them someone who can teach them. You know, like, at least, now, this may be their karma. They may have to repeat that a few times before it cleans itself up, but there's no need for them to plant those seeds any deeper or darker, right? I also know of students who they have a Root Llama who then sends them away, and, you know, they never stop being their Root Llama. And often, you know, they may or may not take on another teacher, or they may or may not seem to completely be separate from their root teacher. But remember I said the whole thing about lifetimes?
Yeah.
They don't have to be sitting right beside you holding your hand to be your Root Llama, you know? They never ever stop being your Llama, because the thing that you may have needed was to have been sent away, you know? So, yeah, and they're hard. Those are hard lessons to learn. But again, you know, all the time we have to not judge the person that we think we're seeing, and if we've chosen this being as our teacher, we have to constantly be asking the question, what are they trying to teach me? What am I supposed to learn here? And it can be frustrating when the answer isn't obvious, or when you don't think you're getting the answer, but if you keep asking that question, the answers will come. Yeah, they will come. Okay, so that's it for this class. And let's dedicate. Buki Chukshing Meitok Tram Rirabling Shi Nyande Gampadi Sange Shindu Mikte Uwa Gidroganamnak Shingla Jupashok Idam Guru Ratna Mandalakam Niriyatayami Digevokun Sunam Yashe Tzotzokshi Sunam Yashe Lejungwe Dampakuni Toparsho. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. Yay.
So I don't know what we're supposed to do with this.
Oh boy. This part might be tricky. Okay, so we stop broadcast, right?
Stop recording.